As President Donald Trump repeating his rhetoric over Canada becoming the 51st state.
As Trump's tariffs continue to weigh heavy on Canada's economy with no trade deal in sight.
Trump was speaking in Virginia to military officials. What was happening on that front?
Since the dawn of 2025, a storm has been brewing on both sides of the border. What began as campaign banter has ignited into one of the most volatile confrontations in North American history. President Donald Trump, never shy of controversy, once again stirred outrage by calling for Canada to become America's 51st state. His words, once dismissed as political theater, now echo through the halls of Washington and Ottawa. Tariffs, boycotts, border slowdowns, tourism collapses. Two nations once bound by friendship are now caught in an economic standoff no one saw coming. But beneath the headlines lies a deeper story, one of pride, politics, and power. Can a relationship built over a century survive a single man's rhetoric? This is the Canada crisis, when allies turned adversaries. And it all started with one speech. The rhetoric that shook the border. The year opened with a political earthquake. From the podium in Virginia, President Donald Trump reignited his rhetoric about Canada, not as a neighbor, but as a potential 51st state. The remark sparked outrage across the border, drawing sharp rebukes from politicians and citizens alike. What began as campaign theatrics now carried the weight of presidential authority. Within days, Trump's administration slapped a 35% tariff on nearly all Canadian exports: aluminum, timber, beef, and more. For decades, the U.S.-Canada trade alliance had symbolized trust. Now it symbolized tension. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney condemned the move as an assault on sovereignty. The rhetoric hit deeper than economics. It questioned identity. Canadians, known for quiet diplomacy, suddenly found themselves thrust into a global spotlight. In cafes, on talk shows, and in Parliament, one question echoed. Had America stopped seeing us as equals? It wasn't just a trade dispute anymore. It was personal. When friendship becomes fallout. By mid-year, the consequences were undeniable. Tariffs had frozen exports and crippled industries on both sides. But the true shock came from tourism, the invisible artery that fed thousands of American towns. In 2024, Canadians made over 20 million trips south of the border, pumping $20 billion into local economies. By summer 2025, that number plummeted by a third. Hotels in Florida and New York sat half empty. Restaurants cut hours. Border shops, once thriving on weekend traffic, now struggled to survive. For many small-town Americans, this wasn't politics, it was survival. "We didn't start this," one shop owner said, "but we're paying for it." The irony grew thicker each week. The tariffs meant to punish Canada were crippling American workers. Quietly, even within Trump's party, voices began to question the strategy. But Washington wasn't listening. The border had gone quiet, and so had diplomacy. The man who tried to mend the rift. Amid the chaos, one unexpected figure emerged: Billy Nungesser, Louisiana's lieutenant governor. Known more for parades than politics, Nungesser took a personal mission north. His goal? Rebuild goodwill, one handshake at a time. In Toronto, he faced reporters. In Montreal, skeptical officials. In Quebec City, polite but firm rejection. He spoke from the heart. "We love Canada. We have great friends up here." But his words, though sincere, couldn't undo the damage. Tourism officials listened, smiled, and refused. "Until there's an apology," one told him, "we're not coming back." For Nungesser, it wasn't just diplomacy, it was heartbreak. He remembered Canada's generosity after the BP oil spill, when children sent pennies to help Louisiana's wildlife. Now, that same nation was boycotting his state. His journey revealed a truth Washington ignored. Alliances aren't maintained by power, but by respect. The economic domino effect. The fallout didn't stop at tourism. It spread into trade, manufacturing, and agriculture. American exports to Canada, from whiskey to wine, nosedived by over 60%, erasing hundreds of millions in revenue. Economists warned that even a 10% dip could cost $2 billion. The actual collapse was triple that. Towns dependent on tourism and exports faced layoffs, bankruptcies, and declining tax revenues. Meanwhile, Canada responded with strategic restraint, diverting its imports toward Europe and Asia. The message was clear. If Washington plays politics, Ottawa will play economics. At home, frustration brewed. Even Republican lawmakers began breaking silence. One congressman admitted, "The tariffs didn't make us stronger, they made us isolated." For decades, the U.S.-Canada partnership was unbreakable. In 2025, it cracked, and the sound was heard across the world. The turning point, or the point of no return. As 2025 neared its end, change loomed, not in Washington, but in Ottawa. Facing its own economic pressures, Canada shifted attention to a new crisis, the tariff war with China. Its 100% tariff on Chinese EVs had triggered retaliation, crushing canola exports and sparking unrest among farmers. For Prime Minister Mark Carney and Foreign Minister Melanie Joly, the stakes couldn't be higher. Should Canada double down on protectionism or pivot toward diplomacy? Joly proposed a bold idea, turning the crisis into opportunity by attracting EV investment through strategic tariff relief. But critics warned it might look like surrender. For both nations, the same truth lingered. Rhetoric wins headlines, but it loses economies. In the end, history may remember 2025 not as the year of tariffs or tweets, but as the year North America learned a painful lesson. Power without partnership is just isolation, and pride, once wounded, takes years to heal.